ever since I was a little girl, I knew that my job, like what I was doing here, has to do with heaven on earth. So when you say divine masculine, I don't think divine like, out in the universe somewhere, but heaven on earth, the divine on earth. And I've had so many moments since I started studying men and started unraveling the myths, which doesn't mean they're unfounded. So I'll address that. But since I started in 1991, I've had so many experiences of, oh, this is heaven on earth.
Yeah.
And those experiences have been in partnership, and seeing how beautifully human beings and men and women can be in partnership and absolutely harmonic convergence. I've seen it over and over again. And I think what gets in the way of us being able to perceive it is things that I've just learned about the way that our minds work, that, when we're hurt or disrespected or betrayed, we have to come up with a conclusion. We have to answer the question, why did that happen? Because if we don't answer it, we can't create a strategy to prevent something horrible from happening again, right? And we can't even create a strategy to cause something wonderful to happen again without a conclusion. So we're just driven to make conclusions. And there's individually and then there's culturally, right? And so like a cultural conclusion is that there are a few wonderful men, right? That there are a few. And if you can find one of the few. So just that conclusion, which it's a belief, right? But beliefs advertise themselves as true. It's just true, right? And then we sort. Our brains have to filter. There's too much input, right? So our brains are going to filter for what validates our conclusions.
Yeah.
And it screens out the rest. The rest is irrelevant. The rest is just this, an occasional exception. But the strategy is based on the conclusion, right?
Yeah.
And before I started studying men, my conclusion, and I'm so sorry, Andre or anyone else is still helping making this work, but I didn't know this entirely until I got into it. But the conclusions I was operating from is men are bigger and stronger and they'll hurt me.
Yeah.
Men have no feelings, so don't worry about hurting them.
Yeah.
And they're lesser human. So women are more evolved, more everything divine, you could say. And I honestly questioned if they had souls.
Yeah.
Like half human. And so as long as we think these things, right, then we are not interacting with reality. And what I've seen over the last 30 plus years is both men and women are both. Most critters are both. Whether it's a dog or a horse, you have the pure survival instinct part of us that's in every cell of our being and the limbic part of our brain. And it's always a split second in front of the prefrontal cortex. And then you have, whether it's human spirit, horse spirit, dog spirit, you have who we can be when we feel safe, when we feel secure, when we don't perceive threats that cause us to react in some kind of fight, flight, or freeze scenario. And so what I didn't know that I was doing until my friend was called a frog farmer, like in the scene at the beginning of the Queen's Code, what I didn't know till that moment was that there's so much for both men and women to learn about how we behave in ways that cause, especially the opposite sex, to perceive a threat. and react from the worst part of who they are.
Yes.
And it's like kicking a dog. It's like kicking a dog and being surprised that they run away or that they bite you, or often they bite you and run away. and but that we're antagonizing their instincts. And one of the biggest ways, Layla, as you know, is the instinct to protect, right? The instinct to protect trumps the instinct to provide. And so we want men and women to be in an overflow of giving. That's what we want, even though we suck at receiving. We want them to be that way. But if we do something that's perceived as a threat, then it has somebody retract into protection. And the worst thing about emasculating men is that, and sometimes we do it on purpose, and sometimes we're just clueless, like interrupting them. Um, they retract not only from provide to protect, but they retract into protect myself from you. And that's when we see the worst of them. And what's stunning, like we talk about in the Queen's Code, is even when they're at their worst, where they see us as a threat and what we're saying or doing is a threat, and they've got to protect themselves from us, their concern for protecting us will have them disarm themselves.